Yes. Welcome back to another edition of Go Long Live. I am your host, Barry Long II, not the first, not the third. I am the second. We are live on CoachellaValley.com, today'scalifornia.com. We are live on today'scanada.com. We are live all over the Twitterverse, all over the metaverse, all over the universe. We are going to talk a lot about some football today. We got some news about the Packers, whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to stay. They have hired somebody that is near and dear to his heart and that is instrumental in his career development. So we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers. We're also going to talk about Sean McVay and Aaron Donald, whether or not they're going to stay as Rams. We're also going to talk some basketball. We got to talk Anthony Davis and that terrible history that he's got with the injuries. We also going to talk about the Ben Simmons has been introduced as a Brooklyn Net officially, as well as James Harden has been introduced as a Philadelphia 76er. And we're going to talk Zion Williamson a little bit. He has been injured as well. But without any further ado, let me bring in my main man, Rudy, Reyes. Rudy, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. Lots of breaking news. You know, there's also baseball tragedy is a 15-minute window where you can go through anywhere to get a hamburger. May as well get a shake and fries while you're at it, because that's about as long as these meetings have taken today in Major League Baseball with the MLPAA. So a lot of non-moving parts, but some moving parts. And, of course, there has been a tweet just sent out recently talking about how the Major League Baseball has informed the Players Union that a CBA must be agreed upon, by February 28th, regular season. In other words, to start the regular season on time. That remains to be seen whether or not the MLBPAA is going to be on board with that or not. Sounds more like a demand than it is a request.
Yeah, and we're talking about maybe not even seeing, spring training at all this season with the baseball. We might not even have a season. It is going to be up in the air, so it's going to be interesting to find out. Real quick, my son, he told me today, he asked me, how do you spell Brett Favre's name? I said it's spelled Favre, right? And he's like, and that's just one of those weird things of the English language, one of those weird rules. I don't know why it's not spelled Farve. As a matter of fact, I remember a kid had a jersey that spelled Farve on the back, and he got joked. Needless to say, it was but yeah, But speaking of the Packers,
it's not standardized English. That's why it's a little bit foreign.
It doesn't even spell Favre. It spells Favre, Brett Favre. Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna talk Packers today. We're gonna talk a little bit of Aaron Rodgers, but before we get into that, let's talk about Anthony Davis, because Anthony Davis last night we saw him go down with an ankle injury after catching a lob from Malik Monk. The actual picture of the injury is right here. We'll take away that the CGI so you can see the ankle, the angle of the ankle that he hurt. He had to be carried off the court by his teammates. Just a terrible thing. We've seen Anthony Davis go down with lots of injuries, but he was thriving in pain yesterday. And I was just thinking, like, they said that the X-rays came out negative. But I was just thinking about all the times that we've seen Anthony Davis get injured, and these are a lot just random injuries that he's had since he's been a Laker. I mean, look at all the different faces that he has, all the different times. But Anthony Davis has been injury prone since he's entered the league. I looked up his history. He's had a concussion, a right ankle injury, left ankle injury, right shoulder, left shoulder, sprained MCL, fractured left hand, fractured finger, back spasms, chest contusion, right hip strain, groin pull, bruised back, Achilles, a calf. I mean, this guy is, I like to call Carson Wentz Humpty Dumpty, because, all the King's Horsemen and all the King's Men could not put Humpty Dumpty back together again, couldn't put Carson Wentz back together again. But I'm starting to think that Anthony Davis is Humpty Dumpty. And I understand that he did come in and win a championship with LeBron James the first year when they were in the bubble, and things were great. But at the end of the day, Anthony Davis has been missing games season after season, especially since being with the Lakers. In 2018, he played 56 out of 82 games. 2019, he played 62 out of 72 games. And last year, he played 36 out of 72 games. So this guy has not been available. You got LeBron James balling at an all-time level at 37 years old. And for some reason, I don't know if it's lack of if it's diet in the offseason. I don't know if it's lack of taking care of his body, but for whatever reason, this guy cannot get out there on the court. And Anthony Davis, they said when he comes to LA, he's going to get a lot of different endorsement deals. Well, one he's not going to get is milk. because this boy needs to drink more milk, and he's not drinking enough. But at the end of the day, I feel like it is time to get rid of Anthony Davis as a Laker fan. What do you say, Rudy Ramon Reyes?
Well, I look at it like this. You look at all the injuries, look at all the situations where he's put his team at risk. And of course, they don't always have an answer for the lack of Anthony Davis, who's not on the floor when he should very well be on the floor. And I don't mean laying on the floor. I mean on the court, upright, playing ball. I understand that people get injured and it happens. It's unfortunate. It reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger, right? We talk about the injuries, the thumb, the finger, the nose, the neck, the knees, the legs, the feet. I mean, this is an ongoing battle for Anthony Davis, and it's not helping this Lakers team at all whatsoever. Yes, they rallied to beat the Jazz last night, but what does this mean for the rest of the Laker bench that doesn't become injured in an untimely manner? Well, that leaves Russell Westbrook to be the guy, ultimately be that one person, that sole component to offset the fact that Anthony Davis is not there. I still would not give Anthony Davis the ball at the end of any given game, just like I wouldn't give the ball to Russell Westbrook in any given game, whether or not there's 4 seconds or 4 minutes left on the clock. Why? They're not game closers. They're not game changers. They're more like bench warmers pretending to be basketball players. And unless you're going to be the guy that's going to take care of himself physically off the court, on the field, off the field, to have a $2-3 million regimen to keep yourself in shape, to make sure that those components that you've injured throughout your entire career are solely honed in on, to see what we need to do some lower back exercises. We need to put a handball inside of your hand to work out the muscles and the knuckles and the wrist. If you have knee, we need to put you on some type of lightweight squat situation. This is not good for the Lakers. This is not good for fans. And this is overall not good for the league, because we see guys go down on a regular basis. The Lakers aren't even remotely in contention. Yes, it was a win. It was a much needed win by Los Angeles over the Utah Jazz, considering they're in the Western Conference, and it's really about seeding at this juncture. Will the Lakers be able to turn it on? I don't know. Will they be able to cross that bridge when they get to it in order to be the team that they need to be, like all the fans want them to be? If they have to be the buyers of buyout situations. And unfortunately, AD is the biggest cause to not only himself getting injured on a regular basis throughout his entire career, and also in the purple and gold, but also it doesn't help the Lakers cap situation either. So what do? They buy Anthony Davis out and say, well, thanks, we appreciate it, but no thanks. The problem with that concept is that there is nobody to step in. I don't trust Russell Westbrook. I can barely tolerate Bazemore. You don't have the dominant. I'm serious. You don't have the dominant guy in the center. There is no Shaquille O'Neal-esque kind of guy, one of the best centers in the NBA all time. You just don't have a guy like that. And LeBron James cannot do it by himself. It's a proven fact. So this right now, from a mild sprain, 1 to 2 weeks, moderately 3 to 4 weeks. And of course, if it's a rupture, 4 to 6 weeks. If he needs surgery, 6 to 8 weeks. So however you slice it, whatever way you want to cut this pie, you need to cut your losses so you can have a bigger piece of the pie when it comes to the following season, to get guys in position that will be able to help you being upright instead of being down on the floor.
And Bill Senso says, hi, Barry and Rudy. We appreciate you, Bill. And you're right. And when you look at what the Lakers conundrum is going to be with Anthony Davis moving forward, is he signed a 5-year, $190 million max deal with the Los Angeles Lakers, and he is not an unrestricted free agent until 2025. So they will have to deal him or cut him, like you said, buy him out and cut him, which I cannot see happening. And with the lack of big men that they have right now, you got Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan, who are not working out. And you've got Stanley Johnson, who's been playing well. He's a power forward. He can play, the 4 for the rest of the season and allow LeBron to play that 3. But ultimately, this is going to be a tough stretch for the Lakers moving forward. And for the rest of the season, they're 9th currently in the standings right now. We'll pull up the standings for the NBA. For this is the West. This is the Western Conference right here. You got the Suns and the Warriors up top, but the Lakers are all the way down at 9. And only 2.5 games behind them are the Portland Trailblazers. So without Anthony Davis and without, a viable big man right there, you're going to have LeBron James playing the 5 a couple nights, Stanley Johnson playing the 5. It's going to be a mess. And the Lakers' upcoming schedule is stressful. So I don't even know if they're going to be able to stay in contention for the playoff or for the play-in game. So this is going to be interesting moving forward. I really don't know if the Lakers season is over, but it looks grim right now.
Well, when I look at the NBA overall, fans are not happy with different aspects of the NBA. Why? Because there isn't defense. There's no defense overall. Lakers are one of the least teams at 9th position to play any type of defense whatsoever. I've watched quite a few Laker games this year, and the only thing I can say is D up, because they're not D'ing up in any way, shape, or form. They don't even know how to spell defense right now with their rotation, with the lackluster inside paint blockouts, without the rotations. There's nothing there that shows me the Lakers are going to do anything at all whatsoever. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, fans are not being put in the seats because of what they know, what they expect to actually happen. And that right there is not good. It's a black eye for Adam Silver. It's a black eye for the NBA. It's a black eye for teams within the NBA franchise. So unless these teams change their mindset, remember back in the 80s and the 90s, it was all about defense. You've seen the swats. You've seen them going body to body, hand to hand, going against the rim, blocking balls out. That right there is entertaining. That's entertainment. Yeah. That's what gets people to stay in the seats, or even attend the arena to be in the seats, right? Because it's about money being spent while you're there. Food, drinks, paraphernalia, anything. And the game is fine there in the stadium, and that allows you to say, you know what, I'm cool. My team's got this. They're on defense. Maybe it's halftime. Maybe it's not. But when you're lackadaisical and you don't have a chance to reach your seat because the marketing's not being done, because your team doesn't know anything about defense and they can't spell defense, you tell me what's going to happen. They're not going to bother showing up.
And the game has changed. The game has really evolved into an offensive style of game. The Mike D'Antoni system is one that has been copied by a lot of different teams. You see teams like the Golden State Warriors who shoot threes out there, and you had the Houston Rockets a few years ago with James Harden. They were shooting more three-pointers than they were shooting two-pointers. So you've seen a lot of kids that are playing the younger generation coming up. They're more concerned about shooting three-pointers. They're not worried about pick and roll. They're not worried about playing traditional basketball. And along with that comes the lack of defense. And you're right. And the Lakers have been a team that has been accused of playing lazy defense, if you will. We seen James Harden earlier on in the season when he was with the Brooklyn Nets. When he quit on the Brooklyn Nets, there was a play where he kind of loses the ball and it goes behind, and it's going to be a backcourt violation. But rather than try to pick up the ball and prevent the other team, the guy runs right out underneath him, picks the ball up, and dunks on him. And he clearly does not care about defense. And a lot of these players don't care about defense in the NBA anymore. But yeah, the Lakers are a team that has been accused of being lazy on defense as well. And what do you expect when you put together the oldest roster in NBA history? Rob Pelinka is somebody who we've seen being able to turn the rosters over year after year. We saw him with the Josh Hart and Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram, and then the next year they've got all these other different players, Danny Green and Anthony Davis and Dwight Howard, and then the next year, so they've been able to turn over the roster multiple times, and I expect Rob Pelinka to be able to do the same thing. But I think that right now it is time for Anthony Davis to be out of a Lakers uniform and in a different uniform. We are Go Long Live. I am Barry Long. He is Rudy Ramon Reyes. We are live on CoachellaValley.com. We're live on Today'sCalifornia.com. We're also live on Today'sCanada.com. Now, we saw one of the biggest trades that we've ever seen at the trade deadline. Two superstars being traded for each other. There were other moving parts, but ultimately the main pieces were James Harden for Ben Simmons. Now, Ben Simmons is a Brooklyn Net. He has been introduced. And a big piece in this trade, I believe, that a lot of people aren't talking about is Seth Curry. Now, Seth Curry is he's leading the league at from time to time at three-point shooting percentage. Probably leading right now, I believe. Pull that stat up here in a second. But he's always at the top, at least in the top three of three-point percentage each year. He comes into a team with Kyrie Irving, and we know that there have been mass mandates that have been lifted in certain places. California, where we are, being one of those places. There have been vax mandates lifted. We know that the Coachella Fest that is coming up in April, there's no vax mandate, there's no mask mandate, there's no anything. Like the COVID protocols are done. So basically, New York State being one of the most strictest vaccine states, they mandate just mostly all their workers in the state, but you cannot go inside of a gym unless you have a vaccine. And Kyrie Irving has been strict against not getting his vaccine. But we might see that vaccine mandate lifted. So we might see this team at full strength. And you can see the roster right there. You got Ben Simmons running the point guard, Steph Curry or Steph Curry probably running the 2. I'm sorry, Kyrie running the 2, Steph Curry probably running the 3, Durant at the 4, and Andre Drummond at the 5. So this team looks pretty formidable, and it could be scary. I mean, when you talk about the ability of Kyrie Irving to score and the ability for Kevin Durant to score, you really don't need Ben Simmons to do that much scoring. You just need him to facilitate, and you got a guy like Steph Curry that can also light it up on his own and create his own shot. So my question to you is, do you think that the Nets could actually make it to the finals with this roster?
They certainly have the potential to do it. I mean, you look at Ben Simmons, he can be the willing passer. He can be the guy on the inside. If you're handling the ball well on the perimeter, you get him involved inside of the paint. You get him involved in the pick and roll. He's a big body guy who can block people out. He has the ability to be that guy, at least as long as he's playing. As long as he has his mental health, I think he should be just fine with the type of people around him. Andre Drummond, they actually lost tonight, the Nets, which doesn't really bode well for them. But don't forget, these are guys trying to get acclimated to the system. Ben Simmons says he'll be available. When will be, best ability is availability. And right now, Ben Simmons still is trying to ramp up. Well, what does that even mean? Is this a U-Haul commercial? Does he need a ramp to get back into motion? I mean, we put him on a little go-kart or something? I mean, what is this? What does it even mean to ramp up? Let's think about this logically. Andre Drummond was very no-nonsensical tonight in a post-game interview as they lost to the Wizards. Mm-hmm. And he was asked about what the relationship is and if there's any type of animosity against the 76ers because of that trade situation. Andre Drummond quickly quashed that and said, you know what? We're here to win this one game at a time. We're going to take all these games as equally serious as we do as the next game. And so what if they're the 76ers and they happen to be in the East? I don't favor the 76ers in this deal, to be quite honest with you. Why? Because James Harden himself, not that guy. He used to be, but he's not that guy anymore. And he does have supporting cast around him. I take nothing away from having Joel Embiid be that guy to be that dominant center, because we know he can. He has a really sweet touch off the glass. He can do a variety of things. So he has the capability of being that guy. The problem that I see with the 76ers and James Harden is James Harden, again, older, maybe wiser, but definitely older. And could there be an injury in his future? Let me look at my crystal ball. And, it's kind of an unforeseen tragedy that could actually take place. The Nets, on the other hand, have Seth Curry, who can get on a hot streak. And of course, we're talking about this whole trade, and Doc Rivers has traded off his son as well as his son-in-law. So it's
not safe with Doc, not if you family.
I'm just saying, you must have some type of hate for the guy if you're gonna trade him off every time you get a chance to acquire him, or maybe he doesn't think very highly of him. Maybe that diamond he gave his daughter, maybe not the biggest one he could have got. Anyway, the bottom line is this: is that the Nets have the capability of being able to do something greater than what the 76ers are able to achieve. And I can see this boiling down to, and I'm not taking the Bucks out of the equation, because they're still in the mix. They're still in the conversation.
Or the Miami Heat.
And they could very well win that East. However, the Miami Heat is certainly on a roll. They are missing some pieces. They need to play whatever you want to call it, defense. And it needs to be half court D. So the minute that ball crosses that half court, they need to put the press on. And if they don't put the press on and do it arithmetically, they're going to find themselves on the back end losing close games and close situations. So it's still anybody's game. We still have the All-Star game. We were talking about Anthony Davis earlier. This is Rudy Reyes with Barry Long II here on Go Long Live. The bottom line to all this is that when you look at the injuries and the type of injuries, Anthony Davis still has the ability to sit out and be that guy and heal up depending on the severity after the MRI. And the MRI should have already happened today, in fact. But as it stands right now, we don't know what the injury, get it, is out right now. We don't know if the jury's in or out. Because bottom line is the severity of the injury. So
it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 6 to 8. That's the thing with Anthony Davis is it's always a knick-knack. And when he comes back, he might re-injure it. The first game he comes back. I mean, this guy is so delicate and so fragile.
You sure he didn't twist that? He sure he didn't twist that ankle going to the fridge and trying to grab a Twinkie.
I mean, seriously,
on a toy or something. I mean,
this guy's got to be careful going to the salad bar. It's like
the irritation. I mean, how long is he going to have to stand in line before he injures himself standing there? I don't know.
It's terrible.
Right
so let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
So who won that trade? Do you think that the Philadelphia wins the trade because they do get rid of Ben Simmons, who they knew was not going to play this season. He was claiming that he had mental illness or mental health issues that were prohibiting him from playing. So they knew that they weren't going to have Ben Simmons. They did have to give up a lot. They gave up Seth Curry. They gave up picks. They gave up Drummond. But they did get James Harden. And James Harden seems to have always wanted to be in Philadelphia with owner Michael Rubin, whom he has had a well-documented good relationship with. He seems to be excited to play with Joel Embiid. I understand that their depth is going to be an issue moving forward because they had to get rid of guys like Seth Curry. But ultimately, I feel like they did get some good in this return because of getting James Harden. But the Brooklyn Nets, on the other hand, if they can get the most out of Ben Simmons, and if Seth Curry continues to play the way that he's been playing, and Andre Drummond can be, that instrumental piece that they need moving forward in the playoffs, I feel like Brooklyn Nets have won this trade. But what do you think? Did Philly or did Brooklyn win this trade?
Right now, we don't really know. We don't know what it looks like. We're not going to know exactly what the chemistry is, what the conversation is. Thank you, Rodolfo Mexico
Reyes.
City in California. Thank you so much for tuning. Yeah, man. I can
shout out to Rodolfo, man.
Faster than that, but I've actually been mistaken for Rodolfo also. But anyway,
Rudy.
Yeah, see, I'm
Rudolph. Is it short for Rudolph?
I'm more on the Mexican side, so no, definitely not the Rudolph, and not to be confused with the red-nosed reindeer either. But there's really no way to tell. I think it's based upon chemistry. I think it's about game planning, and it's going to give them at an All-Star break a chance to kind of work and talk amongst one another, formulate game plans. And I'm not just talking the Nets. I'm talking about the Sixers as well, or any team in the NBA ultimately that has made those changes, whether point guards or a shooting guard or a forward or a center. It doesn't really matter. It's about cohesion. When you have cohesion, you have understanding, you put those together, you can formulate a really solid game plan. I think they can. I believe they can. It's just a question of whether or not if they want to, and if they want to go all in on the rosters that they currently have, because at this juncture, there is no choice. Just like in the NFL, once that deadline's closed, you call it a day and it's done. So right now, I don't really know, and I'm not quite sure who's going to be the favorite out of the West or the favorite on the East. But I know this, and I know this for certain: Phoenix will end up winning the West if they continue playing how they're playing, the way that they're playing. They have a 98% chance to win the West. There's no doubt about it.
98. Wow. I mean, now I do like the way Phoenix is playing. I think Phoenix has been, absolutely phenomenal, fantastic. The way that they have chemistry together. These guys are amazing. Naomi Vex, she says, hello, sir, Rudy and Barry, for watching from the Philippines again and again. Well, we appreciate you, Naomi, so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. But yeah, I think the way that the Suns are playing and their chemistry is just fantastic. I mean, Chris Paul playing at an all-time high. You got Devin Booker playing well. It's just working for Phoenix right now. But you got to look at the Warriors, and Klay Thompson is just now getting his feet underneath him. He's feeling like the old him again, and it's gonna be when Draymond Green comes back, and Andrew Wiggins is playing at an all-time high right now. I feel like Golden State is going to be dangerous, but the Grizzlies are also exciting to watch. And John Morant is playing out of his mind right now. So you can't count teams out like the Mavericks or the Jazz or the Nuggets. These teams play hard night in and night out. once they get into playoffs time and we get deep into these playoffs, those teams are going to be hard to get out. But at the end of the day, I agree with you. The Suns look like the most formidable team to come out of the West right now. But if I had to choose between the Suns and the Warriors, I don't know if I think I might take that experience from the Warriors in a 7-game series.
Maybe so.
But when we look at the East, let's look at the East, the Eastern Conference standings right now. You got the Bulls, you got the Heat. The Heat have been playing fantastic. You're right. They do need to focus on defense, especially late in games. But I feel like Jimmy Butler and PJ Tucker are two guys that in a 7-game series, they're going to lock down because we have seen them being able to be top defenders in the league at previous points in their career. Kyle Lowry adds a different dynamic to them, and I love what Duncan Robinson brings to the table. Their biggest issue is going to be the depth on their bench when it comes to Miami Heat. But when you look at the Bulls, there's no surprise here. 38-21 is something that I fully assumed for them to be within that top 2 to 3 spot. I didn't expect them to be number 1, but I did expect them to be, somewhere up there, number 1. And 38-21 should be no surprise because that team, it seems like as soon as they start, they put all those superstars together with DeRozan and the Zach LaVine, they just gelled immediately. So this team is good. I just don't know. Moving forward, once you get deep into the playoffs, I'm not sure if they have that playoff experience that's going to get them out of the East. I think the Bucks are going to be the most dangerous team once we get down into the playoffs. What do you say?
Well, all the Bucks are trying to do is really run it back, and if they can run it back and they can get it back, then I believe they always, every time you touch the core, every time you touch the field, you have an opportunity to actually win the game. The difference is that when you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, it's been more about defense with Antetokounmpo than probably anybody else, except for maybe Chris Middleton, who's always been formidable. He'll pick your pocket. There's certain dynamics about his game that I really enjoy watching. He's great from 3. He's even better inside of the 3-point line. They've been really good at the charity stripe. So Milwaukee is still, it's always going to be in the conversation whether or not any champion can actually repeat. We've seen that in the NFL. Can Tampa Bay come back and do it and run it back? Did the Kansas City Chiefs have the capability of running it back? Everybody did. The minute you get on the field, you have the opportunity, but they did not. Neither one of them did. So it stands to reason that when you look at the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, there's still plenty of basketball to be played. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not going to call any team out to say, well, you don't have a shot, you don't have an opportunity. Well, you do. And it's really about momentum, gaining the momentum. I seen Golden State do it last night. In fact, when they were on the run, they were, I think it was like 13-6 or 14-6, and Steph Curry was getting involved. Everybody was basically getting involved, and of course, big Klay Thompson was just dropping threes like Thor does hammers. And you were mentioning,
and he's amazing.
He is absolutely amazing. I'm starting to get the feeling about Klay Thompson, because he now has a huge chip on his shoulder, that he's going to be able to do absolutely everything he needs to do, everything within his power to make sure that this team becomes that number 1 seed out of the West. But they got a long way to go, and there's still plenty of basketball to be played. So they just have to play smart. They have to play through Steph, play through Klay Thompson, and be able to get it to those willing passers to put guys in position, whether you're in the perimeter or you're inside the paint, to dominate. And if you can't do that, and there's no formula, then you find yourself scratching your head at the end of the game when you're on the losing side of the coin, thinking, what did we do wrong? And then you have to go back and look at tape all over again if you're the losing team.
Yeah, and I like them battling out in the West against Phoenix. I think that would be a great Western Conference Finals. And Chris Paul having the familiarity with that franchise, going against Golden State for so many years when he was with Lob City and the Clippers. He knows, him and Steph Curry have a long history with Klay Thompson as well. So I feel like that would be a really good series for them battling it out. And I can't wait to see what the playoffs brings. But we are very close to All-Star Weekend. We are going to be talking about the All-Star game more tomorrow. We're going to be talking more about LeBron James and the Lakers as well. But right now we are live on CoachellaValley.com, live on today'scalifornia.com, today'scanada.com. We appreciate everybody for tuning in and commenting. Rodolfo Flores says, thank you very much for mentioning him. he will see us soon. In the USA. He lives in Canoga for the San Fernando Valley. Happy night. Well, good night to you as well, sir. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. We are live all over the Twitterverse as well. Please comment, and we will pop your comments up, much like Naomi's comment. She said, hello, sir, Barry and Rudy, as well as William Senso. Bill Senso, always rocking with us. We appreciate you, sir. Now, let's get into some football. Now, we had the Rams. They had their parade yesterday that went all around LA and eventually came to the LA Coliseum, was where it came to a head. It was pretty good parade for everyone. We saw Sean McVay sipping on a little something. We saw all the players, very, very exciting. We saw Aaron Donald with no shirt on whatsoever. But before the game, we heard from NBC that it was reported that the Los Angeles Rams head coach Sean McVay might retire after the victory, as well as Aaron Donald, who was their best player, considered the best player in the entire NFL. They said that previously, before the game, if they did win, that he would consider retirement. But both of these gentlemen at the parade both went to the podium and said, let's run it back. We're running it back. So the Los Angeles Rams, they pushed all their chips in the middle. They went out and acquired guys like Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford, Von Miller, Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, the list goes on and on. These guys are all in, and they're saying that they're going to basically run it back the same way that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did. They're going to bring all the same players back, all the same acquisitions that they got in free agency. And my question to you is, do the Los Angeles Rams have a chance of winning consecutive championships? Do you think that they can run it back? And if so, put a percentage on it.
Well, I really believe they have every possibility of running it back. And of course, those rumors about Aaron Donald, I think there was more on Aaron Donald's plate in regards to whether or not he would retire as one of the best defensive players to ever play the game. He's not the best player to ever play the game, not the best offensive player to ever play the game, because that jury is still out. There are other greats that are currently in the Hall of Fame, you can argue, as being one of the best defensemen in NFL history. But to be the best player in the NFL, that remains to be seen. I don't think we're going to see that in our lifetime, at least maybe not in mine. When it comes to Coach Sean McVay, when we were at the presser, I heard absolutely nothing from him in regards to whether or not he's going to retire after the season. What he did say and he was asked about being able to coach in the 60s and his 70s. He says that there's no way in hell that he's going to do that. And those were his exact words. And I thought to myself, okay, well, that makes sense. I wouldn't want to be Bruce Arians. I wouldn't want to be anybody else who's going to be a head coach in the 60s or 70s. It's just not going to happen. There's just no way. I don't see it for a lot of various reasons. But when it comes to running it back, every team that has won a title in the NFL wants to repeat. There's not one team ever in 56 Super Bowls that never thought that he would ever get back to the big game. Okay.
And it hasn't happened in the last 17 years.
No, it hasn't. I think
the last team to do it was Tom Brady.
In the new Patriots uniform. That's correct. And they thought they were going to run it back too. Kansas City thought they were going to run it back as well. The difference with this Rams team and why they have the capability of being able to run it back and have a very good probability, I'll give you a number in a second, is they have the same pieces. They will have the same pieces. Odell Beckham Jr. will now feel as if he let his team down because he was injured. Not his fault. It's 16-week-ago injury from the time that he was injured on Super Bowl Sunday over at SoFi. So he has the ability to heal, get better, work out, get back to normal, and hopefully be able to put something on that knee so that way when he does make some type of double step move that he once he receives the ball in order to make some yards after the catch is concerned, then yeah, he may think about doing something like that, and I would probably suggest doing something like that as well. When it comes to the Rams percentages to beat out other teams, whether it be in the NFC and 14 other teams and 15 other teams in the AFC, as long as they get their pieces back, I think that they have probably an 80 to 82% chance of going back to the bowl. Now, when you look at the other side of the ball,
80 to 82?
80 to 82% as it stands right now, at right this very minute. That may change. Because the regular season dictates who's going to be who's gaining more ground, their winning percentages, how they're winning these games, the players involved in making these wins count in very memorable moments. The Rams had their issues in the regular season in regards to turnovers from Matthew Stafford, and of course he threw one in the Super Bowl with that interception, bringing that ball back to the 25-yard line. But when you look at the probability, I think again it's 80-82%. As long as they keep all the people that they had this season. Now, you have the capability of losing 1 to 2% of your overall roster, albeit the practice squad and during injuries that do happen. I mean, ask Anthony Davis; he knows a lot about injuries. But when you have
Humpty
injuries
Dumpty
in the NFL, he could very well be Humpty Dumpty. I don't think there's enough tape to put him back together, and they may run out the 3M factory. But when you look at what's going on right now with the Los Angeles Rams, they have the capability of getting back there a lot greater than Cincinnati Bengals on the other side of the ball has, to be honest, in the AFC. So, yeah, that's where I stand.
I think that they do have a chance to get back, but I'm not going to put 80 to 82%. There's no way. I'm going to say 20 to 25% because it's so hard. Because when you look at the NFL, you got injuries that are involved. You've got just so many different variables to get back to the NFL, and it hasn't happened in the past 17 years. But yeah, when you look at guys like Aaron Donald, I think that I would even go lower for any other team in the NFL. But I think that the highest I would go is 20 to 25, and that's because the Rams have that defense and the defensive pieces in place. And they're still going to bring back Aaron Donald and Von Miller, and they're still going to bring back Leonard Floyd, and they're still going to have Jalen Ramsey. So I feel like they have a lot of pieces in place offensively. The Odell Beckham Jr. injury is going to be interesting to see how this turns out, because ultimately he was a one, and we're not sure if he's going to re-sign with them. I think that they will take a chance on him. This is the second ACL injury on the same knee. So I understand that when you tear your ACL the first time, that, it's supposed to be stronger than it was originally, thanks to Dr. Mark Andrews. But ultimately, I feel like 2 times on the same knee, I mean, he's not gonna have the same speed burst or the same cutting ability, in my opinion. So I feel like they will bring him back, but it'll be at a discounted number. And I hope that he wants to come back because he did experience winning a championship with the Rams, and he likes the culture in the locker room. So I think that they'll be able to bring him back. But I think that the reason why I would give them 20 to 25, and I wouldn't give anybody else this, is because the defense is in place. And I feel like they'll bring back Raheem Morris as a defensive coordinator, and they'll have success in that capacity. But yeah, 80 to 82, that's a lot, man. That's a lot.
It is. Well, again, they understand the winning formula, and every team, every player, I don't care who you are, is actually watching their film right now. They're going play by play, snap by snap. They're looking at defensive formations. They're looking at all the viable components that this Rams team was actually able to win with. It's not a big mystery. This is known as a copycat league of all copycat leagues. Okay, so when you can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you're the Steelers, you're the Ravens, or you're the Cowboys, when you have Micah Parsons, and we're going to talk about their dismay here in a minute, but when you can beg, borrow, and steal from another team that's won a title, and I don't mean taking their defensive coordinator, I don't mean taking their offensive coordinator, I mean just watching the film. Yes, they're going to have to come up with a completely different playbook. They're going to get different people involved in different plays. Cooper Kupp now won the Triple Crown. I'm still not convinced that he was a right MVP vote. That's neither here nor there. And it doesn't matter what I think anyway. What matters is that Aaron Donald should have been the one who won the MVP. That's my 2 cents. Could be 25 cents, but I lowered that percentage just to match yours, because you wanted to go 25% on the Rams getting back. So.
And you're right. When we saw Sean McVay at that presser, he gave us no indication that he was thinking about stepping down whatsoever.
No.
And neither did Aaron Donald in his interviews leading up to the game and even after the game. He just did it. He just was hushed and said, "We'll see" on one interview. But I mean, you see that neck vein right there on Sean McVay. That intensity comes across in person. And my man is very intense, and I don't see him giving up at 36 years old. I don't see him retiring whatsoever. I mean, and who knows? Like, if he did retire from LA and then he got that itch to coach again, he might not have the same situation, the same quarterback, the same defense. It might be somewhere, in Jacksonville or some place that's open at that
It
time.
could be
So
the same
I feel like
team,
when you're in the right place, you're in the perfect city, you've got the perfect team around you, you've got weapons.
minus the traffic, but no, he has the capability of being able to
The
get it back
traffic is the
all
only bad
over
part about
again.
LA.
Yeah, well, 20 minutes will take you an hour. But and hopefully he accounts for that when he's attending meetings in the off season as a
Yeah.
form of briefing for all
Yes.
these guys. So, Sean McVay, Coach McVay, he did not give any indication. There was no head nod. There was no wink of an eye. There was absolutely nothing to indicate that he's going anywhere at all whatsoever. Now, could he flip the switch? Yeah, maybe, but I highly doubt it. I can almost say for certain, with pure certainty, he's not going anywhere. They're going to be able to bring back probably 90 to 98% of that current roster they have right now between Robert Woods, here's another
And we
little
forgot
nugget.
about Robert Woods. Robert Woods is coming back.
Okay, and so and it would not surprise me whatsoever to see that trifecta of running backs come back as well. Just saying.
Yeah, that would be incredible. And so, speaking of somebody who might not be coming back or might be coming back, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has been widely covered and widely documented this offseason or during the season as well about whether or not he will return to the Green Bay Packers this season or whether or not he would force his way out. He has been, at odds with the front office for quite some time, and it's just been, one thing after the other with Aaron Rodgers. He appears on the Pat McAfee show quite often during the season, and he's always, speaking his heart and wearing his heart on his sleeve. And it has been a conundrum for Aaron Rodgers this entire season and leading into the offseason. So he has up until March 8th, I believe, to make a decision before the teams can understand before they can start finally placing the franchise tag tenders on these guys. He has already come out and said that he would make his decision early in the offseason because of guys like Davante Adams. Davante Adams would like to know whether or not he would like to become an unrestricted free agent or whether or not he will sign a franchise tag if that is the route that the Packers choose to go with him. So, or he'll hold out and not show up for training camp. So, Aaron Rodgers is going to be the first domino of a lot of dominoes to fall. But the Packers have went out and they have tried to already make a move that would interest Aaron Rodgers. They went out and hired Tom Clements as their quarterback coach. Now, Tom Clements had been previously with the Green Bay Packers for 10 years, from 2006 to 2016. He started off as the quarterback coach and then eventually became the offensive coordinator. And a lot of times Aaron Rodgers will mention or refer to Tom Clements and talk about how he was so instrumental and so key to his development as a quarterback, to understanding and reading coverages, just to understand the professionalism of the game. So Tom Clements is somebody that Aaron Rodgers has a deep reverence for, and the Green Bay Packers knew that. So they went out and they got him as the quarterback coach. Of course, we know that the Broncos went out and hired Nathaniel Hackett, who Aaron Rodgers has a great relationship with as well. So these guys are really trying to move pieces and pawns around in order to entice Aaron Rodgers to either stay in Green Bay or go to Denver. But this looks like a good move for the Green Bay Packers and their ability to keep Aaron Rodgers. What do you think about this?
I actually like this move. I'll be honest with you. When I look at how much time Aaron Rodgers has invested in this Packers team, and he's got a 6-year contract at almost $64 million. Average salary is ridiculous and disgusting, almost $11 million on an average. But he's scheduled to be, an unrestricted free agent, at least at that point, 2015. He is guaranteed $20 million. $20 million. That's despicable. That's a lot of money. But what may lure him, if there's cap available, and don't forget the Denver Broncos are still in the lottery mode of picking their actual buyer. I know we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago in regards to maybe an African-American owning the Denver Broncos. I would love to see that. That would be phenomenal. Whether or not all the owners would buy into that or not is another story. Roger Goodell today sending out a tweet in regards to a lot more inclusion when it comes to multiple team owners with civil rights leaders and having that meeting of the minds. That right there could be the game-winning touchdown, as it were, for a possible minority to own the Denver Broncos or any other team for that matter moving forward who wants to put themselves on the block. The Packers are not one of those teams. I think their stock in regards to the money they raised, I think it was like $62,500,000 or some nonsense number like that, enabled them to stay even longer at Lambeau. What I like about this is the fact alone that when you look at Aaron Rodgers and the moving pieces, and it's a matter of who has the best lure, whoever that is. I'm not quite sure who that is, but someone has to have the best lure. Whoever has the best lure has the opportunity to at least have the conversation with him. Now, because the ownership's in flux in Denver, I don't know that Aaron Rodgers would necessarily be enticed that much, and that lure may not be as good in regards to what that looks like from his perspective, whether or not he's going to be their next quarterback or not their next quarterback or what have you. If in fact that does happen, I can see Drew Lock having the tutelage underneath Aaron Rodgers, even though Aaron Rodgers doesn't like teaching anybody anything. If anything, I think Aaron Rodgers has been taught the difference between inoculation and vaccination. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving pieces. But I want to touch on something a little off subject.
Okay.
Today, the Tyler Skaggs court case finally came to a head. And what's really, really upsetting about this is that Eric K., 47 years old, convicted of pushing painkillers in Tyler Skaggs' way. So wait, hold on. I just said that. What does that mean? What that means is that you have a guy who's a part of the PR department, someone who's involved in communications, putting and slipping Mickeys to Tyler Skaggs, ultimately contributing to his death in Texas. And he faces 20 years up to life in prison. And he will be sentenced on June 28th. So he has all that time to get his work in order. This is despicable. This should never have happened. It could have been prevented, but instead, this 47-year-old Eric K., former worker, former PR guy, communications for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, decided to continue giving him all these painkillers to wash away his issues, his emotional problems, his emotional baggage, his physical injuries, things that continue to haunt him throughout his career. Very short career, I might add, in Major League Baseball. So things like this should not happen at all. And the problem is that a 10-women, 2-man jury, after deliberating for a little over 3 hours, came to the conclusion in Fort Worth, Texas today, that he should have never done this. Of course, Tyler Skaggs was found dead about 2 years ago on July 1st.
At the age of 27 in his hotel room.
Right. And that was after the game that they played against the Texas Rangers. You're right. So the problem that I have with all of this is, if you're having mental health issues, if you're having psychiatric problems
or substance abuse issues,
anything, gambling, there is help. Seek people that know better than you do. Why? Because they were trained to understand and diagnose these things and get you the help that you need. I don't think mental health is talked about enough. And if we can give some of this and encourage former players and just regular people that are having these types of problems, you can prevent a lot of deaths. But they have to know that this type of help is available, and it's available to anybody.
Yeah, it really is. And it was just a tragic death. I remember when that happened. And the Angels have had a couple of tragic deaths that have occurred. They had Nick Adenhart that passed away from a drunk driver who hit him and decapitated him. Just heart-wrenching. And then we had the Tyler Skaggs issue, who was found dead in a hotel room. And yeah, this was a terrible story that came out of Major League Baseball, and it finally came to a conclusion. We got some closure today. But yeah, just a sad story. And like you said, if anybody's dealing with any of these issues, then it's always best to reach out before it comes up to a head like this and people die. So we are Go Long Live. I am Barry Long, the second, not the first, not the third. He is Rudy Ramon Reyes. We are live on CoachellaValley.com, live on today'scalifornia.com, live on today'scanada.com. Now, a very, very serious story also that came out of the Dallas Cowboys camp. The Dallas Cowboys have agreed to pay cheerleaders Their famous Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders $2.4 million in a sexual misconduct case settlement that was headed to go to court, but apparently there was a longtime Dallas Cowboys staffer named Richard Dalrymple, who worked for the organization over 35 years, who was allowed to retire this year. There's a picture of him right there. He apparently walked into the locker room of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders as they were undressing after a random, like, a fundraising luncheon. So they're going to a fundraising luncheon, and it wasn't all the cheerleaders, but it was quite a bit of them. And they were going into the locker room, and supposedly there's 2 doors that are locked, and they're guarded by security guards. And only one door was being guarded by the security guard because it wasn't a game. So Richard Dalrymple, this gentleman right here, went into. I'm sorry, that's not the gentleman. That's the meme of the day. This gentleman right here, Richard Dalrymple, apparently he went into the locker room and he had his iPhone out and he snapped a few photos of these women. Then one of the women, who was a veteran, charges at him, says, "Hey, drop the camera." He runs out, slips away, and apparently during the investigation, his cell phone was confiscated. That was the cell phone that he received from the team. And they did not confiscate his personal cell phone. So he might have had another cell phone. We don't know which one he took the pictures on. But either way, this gentleman was being investigated. And now it is now come that the Dallas Cowboys will pay these cheerleaders $2.4 million. He also was involved in another scandal with Jerry Jones' daughter, who you see right there. Now, Jerry Jones' daughter was in the war room during a draft a few years ago, and it was being broadcast live on Facebook. And this gentleman, Richard Dalrymple, apparently went up underneath Jerry Jones' daughter's skirt, Charlotte Jones, and took pictures of an upskirt of her, like took pictures of her panties, I guess, underneath her skirt. And I guess to save him for later and do whatever he was going to do. Either way, Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys have swept this underneath the rug. This guy was allowed to retire without any, criminal or civil investigations. But obviously, now that they have completed the civil investigation in the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders case, maybe they'll have a separate investigation with the Charlotte Jones case. But either way, this guy's a creep, and he has cost the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones $2.4 million in a sexual misconduct settlement case. What are your thoughts on this?
I look at this and I think to myself, man, go get, if you're gonna pull this, go do something that is going to be not conducive to your given situation. Meaning that if Robert Kraft can get away with a happy ending at a salon somewhere, then I'm sure you can do the very same thing, which has absolutely nothing to do with the job that you have right now, which is ultimately to put the Dallas Cowboys in such a position that will allow for them to grow internally without having internal turmoil. Okay, maybe he needed some oil. I don't know. The bottom line is that each woman received a sum of over $399,000. Okay, out of the 2.
Is that enough? You think that's enough money?
I don't know. I probably would never see that kind of money in my lifetime, but I'm sure it's enough.
You will.
To last,
I promise you will,
a lifetime. The kids definitely will. They're going to be able to pay Sally Mae or whoever the case might be. They'll have the capability of living a very comfortable life without any issues, thanks to Mr. Dalrymple. Unfortunately, it's at the cost of their humility. It's at the cost of their job. They're feeling safe, and
who knows what these pictures are? These pictures could be out there on the internet somewhere.
They're still on his phone. They're still on the guy's phone.
They're in the cloud. They're in the cloud, huh?
They're in the eye. They're in the iCloud. So he certainly had his eye on the camera and did what he felt what he needed to do. And the problem is that he's a PR guy involved in communications whose designation was to make sure that everything was done accordingly. The problem is that he picked the wrong Jerry Jones. I don't know of any other. Maybe I'm thinking of an artist, a music singer in Tom Jones.
Yeah, there's no other Jerry Jones. There's only one Jerry.
I
think he's short for Jerome Jones.
Possibly. Hey, Jerome, Joe, you don't look like no Jerome to me. He could, but maybe it's another time for another day. But the fact alone that he took an upskirt of his daughter just shows how much of a slime bucket this guy really is.
Yeah.
He obviously should be brought up on criminal charges of exposure, because who knows, he could have exposed himself to them as well, which is something that we will never know because it was obviously settled and done with for that matter. But this should not happen. Your workplace is supposed to be a safe haven. It's for you. It's designed for you to grow with, learn from, understand the system, the people you work for, trust them. If you happen to admire one of them, so be it, and fantastic for you, and more power to you. The problem is that something like this continues to go on behind closed doors, and the sad part is that we don't know about them until you get a hold of Dan Snyder. A guy like that, continues to just agitate the NFL, agitate other owners within the NFL organization, and basically giving his team a black eye. Yeah, fine. Maybe Snyder should go grab a pretzel and think long and hard before he decides to do what he has done. Same with Mr. Dalrymple. I guarantee you he will never work in the NFL ever again. And I'm sure he has enough money to choke on while he's sitting back watching all this unfold. I don't know if he can sleep at night. I hope he feels crummy about his given situation. And if they were to reopen these books on him, maybe I'd file some criminal charges. Heck, who knows? He could end up peeking photos out of the men's locker room too. I'm just saying. It wouldn't surprise me based on these obvious findings and these allegations who continue to just blacken the sports landscape in such a way that just gives everybody a very bad name, because you're supposed to, your designation again is to be there to learn, to grow, to win a championship, to hoist a Lombardi, to be one of those teams and franchises like the Steelers, or you're using the Dolphins. They're in the middle of a lawsuit mess between them and Brian.
Can't say the Patriots because they
or even New England, because they have Spygate, Deflategate, and every other Iron Gate you could possibly think of going on there. So they're only a handful of organizations. Even the Houston Texans aren't even on that same map because they have issues of their own. So there's only a handful of organizations that do not have these problems. The New Orleans Saints is a good example of that, outside of Bounty Gate, which we all know was rectified with game suspensions and a lot of different types of things that have to say draft picks included in that. So if you're not there to do the good for others, then don't be there at all. Just don't, and get out.
Yeah, absolutely. And the craziest thing about this whole situation is the daughter for me. And Jerry Jones, this happened years ago, and he was still able to work for Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones knew about this. Dude, if you do that to my daughter and you're my employee, bro, this is your last day at this job, and this might be your last day on this earth. So yeah. I mean, I can't. I just feel I'm like looking at Jerry, like, Jerry, what are you doing, bro? Like, this guy should have been gone. For real. And you're the billionaire owner. You're the guy who makes all the decisions. And I don't care how loyal this guy's been to you in the past. I know he's been with there for 35 years. There's him next to Troy Aikman. But it doesn't matter, bro. Like that is something that crosses the line professionally and personally. And like I said, it would have been his last day at the job, and it would have been his last day on this earth. So, that's crazy that Jerry Jones allowed this guy to continue to work with the Dallas Cowboys after doing something like that to his daughter. Now, real quick, let's jump to the meme of the day. The meme of the day comes to us from NFL IG memes. They are good people. They always come up with good memes. And this one I found particularly funny because it's true. A lot of people see Russell Westbrook out here doing working, doing all his stuff, and he's the Lakers $540,000 a game. And we know he comes dressed in his crazy outfits. We know he comes dressed in like the craziest stuff. He wears like these weird vests, these weird pants. This is him coming looking like a bank robber. I think this might have been like, this is post-pandemic. So that's his mask. He literally is robbing the Lakers
it really
of money right now.
Could have been this Halloween outfit if you think about it. All he was just
It
seeing
could have
was,
been. It could have been. But whatever it is.
maybe his AR-15 on his side.
Yeah,
Obviously
Taliban.
fake.
He looks Taliban. Real quick, Rudy, let them know where they can find you at, boss.
Now you guys can go to @RudDogReyes on Twitter. Go to Facebook. You can find me there. And you could also go to LinkedIn. You could find me there. IG Rudy R. Reyes. I'm basically everywhere. Just check me out. A lot of the things that we did at at not only the Rams presser, but at Radio Row is posted on the RudDogShow.com. Just go to the RudDogShow.com, go to Rudy Reyes on Sports, tab down, and you'll be able to see a lot of photos, some interviews. Jalen Ramsey's up there. Coach McVay's there. I was able to upload that and get that done today. And go to YouTube channel. Check it out. So you guys can find me anywhere.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at Radio Barry Long, or on IG at BarryLong_2, or Facebook at BarryLong_II, the way it's written right here. And stay focused, stay motivated, stay inspired, and remember, you're capable of doing anything. So go out and do it. We will see you tomorrow. We'll talk All-Star NBA weekend. Peace.